Exam Prep 2022. Team Tests brings you a video podcast on literary theory. With me today is Sethu Lakshmi. Hello Sethu.
Hello. Good evening everyone. Welcome to yet another session of video podcast.
The first question now is from New Criticism.
Which among the following is not a sense of tension derived by the new critic Alan Tate? Option A, extension. Option B, intention. And option C, pretension.
Haha, that's a joke. And the answer is?
Option C, pretension.
Guys, tension is a very important term propounded by Alan Tate. What is tension? Any artistic work should have a balance. A poem, painting, musical composition, etc. should have a controlled dramatic or dynamic quality. How is it attained? By means of tension, or the balance between opposing forces or elements. There are two kinds of tension. Extension is literal meaning and intention is metaphorical meaning. I hope you got me. Now please read extra. Sethu, can we go into the next question please?
Sure, ma'am.
Again, new criticism.
Which Shakespearean play is subjected to close reading in Cleanth's The Well-Wrought Urn?
The options.
Option A, Macbeth. Option B, Twelfth Night. And option C, A Midsummer Night's Dream.
Oh, which Shakespearean play, Sethu? Tell us the answer.
The right answer is option A, Macbeth.
Did you know that, guys? Cleanth did a close reading of Macbeth. Remember, the well-wrought urn. The title is an allusion to the fourth stanza of John Donne's poem, The Canonization. And did you know he is analyzing John Donne's canonization also in the well-wrought urn? That is in the first chapter itself. Look up the well-wrought urn. And now,
next question is from Russian formalism. Third question. Which of the following is not associated with Russian formalism? Option A, Opoyas. Option B, Leiden School. And option C, Moscow Linguistic Circle.
what do you think is the answer?
The correct answer is option B, Leiden School.
Have you heard of Leiden School, guys? Leiden School is actually a school of thought in linguistics. Opoyas and Moscow Linguistic Society were responsible for the development of not only Russian formalism, but also literary semiotics. I am sure you know about it, but do read extra. Okay, guys. Next question.
Next question is on Russian formalism. Question number 4. Who is known for developing the concept of defamiliarization in his essay Art as Technique or Art as Device? Option A, Victor Slowacki. Option B, Boris Eschenbaum. And option C, Roman Jakobson.
Ta-dang! That is easy. Defamiliarization. Even I know the answer. It is...
Option A, Victor Slowacki.
That's right. Defamiliarization is also called ostraniny. That is in Russian. It is the artistic technique of presenting to audiences very common things in an unfamiliar light. That means even common things are defamiliarized. Why? So that we can gain new perspectives and we can see the world differently. It's very important according to Russian formalists. Shall we move on, Setu?
Yes, ma'am. Next question is on structuralism. Fifth question. Who classified sign into icon, index, and symbol based on the relationship between the signifier and the signified? Option A, C.S. Peirce. Option B, Marcel Mauss. And option C, Catherine Belsey.
Signifier, signified should be Ferdinand de Saussure. I think this question is wrong.
No, ma'am, there is a clue in the question.
Really? Let us look at the answer.
Option A, C.S. Peirce. That's the right answer, guys.
Charles Sanders Peirce was a semiotician, yes, along with Ferdinand de Saussure. And he classified the signs into three categories. The three categories are the iconic sign, the indexical sign, and the symbolic sign. Three categories of signs. What is an iconic sign? It will look like the signified. If you draw the picture of a dog on your gate and say, beware of dog, exactly the same picture of the dog that is inside the gate, then that is iconic sign. Got it? An indexical sign is not exactly the same. It is related but not exactly the same. When a stranger comes to your gate and touches the gate, suddenly bow wow, bow wow wow, you hear barking. Then that is indexical sign related to the dog but not exactly the same as the dog. Got it? Now symbolic is cultural. There is no resemblance between the signifier and the signified at all. It is completely cultural. Suppose you have a leash or a dog chain at the gate, then that means there is a dog inside. That is cultural. Only in cultures where dogs are chained, you will understand this, isn't it? That is cultural or symbolic. Guys, numbers and alphabets are the best examples for symbolic sign. Now, there is something in the question on the slide. There are two spellings for Peirce. Which is the correct one? You have to tell me in the comments, okay? Which is the correct spelling for Charles Sanders Peirce? Tell us in the comments. Next question.
Next question. That's the sixth question. Who among the following critics combined traditional and structuralist approaches in his book Working with Structuralism?
Wow, never heard of that before. Did you?
No. Option A, David Lodge. Option B, Jonathan Culler. And option C,
Zvetan Todorov. Okay, we never heard of this before, so let us guess. I'm guessing it must be David Lodge.
Oh, you guessed it right. That's the correct answer. Option A, David Lodge.
Wow. David Lodge is a well-respected academic and a leading literary critic. Did you know that, guys? He has published many works on literary criticism and also he has published novels. Read up. There is usually a question on David Lodge in the exam. Next question.
Next question is on post-structuralism. Seventh question. What is described by Derrida as a metaphysics of presence? Option A, trace. Option B, difference. And option C, logocentrism.
I know this one. Metaphysics of presence is the same as
Logocentrism.
That's right. Logocentrism is a philosophy holding that all forms of thoughts are based on an external point of reference. Everything that you are thinking, all forms of thought are based on an external point of reference. There is something external which is held to exist. You believe that it exists, and based on that, you start thinking about it. You believe that truth exists. You believe that beauty exists. You believe that identity exists. Did you understand? And those terms get a certain degree of authority. This is what is called logocentrism or metaphysics of presence. Okay, next question. Again on post-structuralism.
Which term is used by Derrida to refer to what he often calls the blind spots?
Blind spots. That means you are blind, you can't understand. Wait, I know this one. Is it
Cora? Or is it aporia? Or is it pharmacon?
Array, I know this one. It is.
Option B, aporia.
Yes, this is a very famous term in deconstruction. Aporia is an irresolvable internal contradiction. When you read a text, suddenly you feel, wow, there is some contradiction here. This is not what the author said before. And this logical disjunction, this logical irresolvability in a text or theory or argument, that is called aporia. And when aporia is visible, then deconstruction takes place. Isn't it, guys? Moving on.
Next question is on postmodernism. That's the 9th question. Which famous novelist works did Bakhtin employ as the primary example for polyphony?
Ta-dang. Which famous novelist works? Maybe Henry Fielding? No.
Maybe Charles Dickens?
No. Let us look at the options.
Option A, Vladimir Nabokov. Option B, Fyodor Dostoevsky. And option C, Alexander Pushkin.
I know. I have heard this before.
What could be the right answer, guys?
Ta-da-dang.
Option B, Fyodor Dostoevsky.
Guys, Mikhail Bakhtin coined this phrase polyphonic novel in his paper Discourse in the Novel. And he gave the primary example of Dostoevsky's prose. According to Bakhtin, the chief characteristic of Dostoevsky's novels is what? The plural voices, the plurality of distinct voices, independent voices, unmerged voices in the novels. And these voices represent unmerged consciousness also. People existing independently and speaking for themselves. The author is not trying to resolve this contradiction. That is called polyphony, very famous term. And now another question from postmodernism. Setu?
10th question. Which among the following is the term used by Julia Kristeva to refer to the human reaction to a threatened breakdown in meaning caused by the laws of the distinction between subject and object or between self and other?
Now, I'm sure you did not understand completely because the question is long. There is a loss of distinction between subject and object. You forget or you lose track of what is subject and object, what is self and other. And this causes a threatened breakdown in meaning. We experience this in our psychosexual development. It is like a shock. What is the term? Is it
Objection? Or is it intertextuality? Or is it graph of desire?
And the answer is?
Answer option A is objection.
Remember, guys, Kristeva posited or proposed that objection is something that we experience before entering into the mirror stage. Before the boundaries of self and other, subject and object, human and animal, etc. are established, you feel this objection. And objection can continue into adulthood also. This is a very important term that defines patriarchy's understanding of women also. Okay, next question.
Next question is on postcolonialism. That's the 11th question. Who wrote the book A Critique of Postcolonial Reason, published in 1999? Option A, Gayatri Spivak. Option B, Franz Fanon. And option C, A. Madhavan.
Guys, this is a very important book of postcolonialism. And the answer is what, Setu?
And the right answer is option A, Gayatri Spivak.
Wow, Gayatri Spivak wrote a critique of post-colonial reason, a very major book where she talks about an interesting term. Have you heard this one? Native informant. What is a native informant that she discusses in this work? It is someone from a particular place or a particular race who is seen as an expert on that race or expert on that place. Why? Simply because he belongs to it. For example, I am an Indian. I go abroad and people will talk to me as if I know everything about India. And I will talk very authoritatively about India. Do I really come out as an expert on India, do you think? Not really. Do I know everything about India? Not necessarily. But I will act like a native informant. It emerges as a metropolitan hybrid, this identity. You act like you know all about your ethnicity or race or country, etc., or culture. Okay? That is in a critique of postcolonial reason. Again, a question on postcolonialism.
Which among the following is not a concept proposed by the postcolonial theorist Homi K. Bhabha?
Ta-da-dang!
Option A, essentialism. Option B, hybridity. And option C, mimicry.
That is easy, Setu. Maybe all of these.
Maybe.
Let us see what is the answer. Oh.
Right answer is option A, essentialism.
Essentialism is not a concept proposed by Homi K. Bhabha. All of you might know that hybridity and mimicry are terms he discussed. What is hybridity? It refers to any mixing of East and Western culture, Eastern and Western culture. Mixing of Eastern and Western culture, isn't it? Within postcolonial literature, it refers to colonial subjects from India or Africa, etc., who have balanced Eastern and Western cultural attributes. I am a metropolitan Indian and I have balanced Eastern and Western attributes, so I am a hybrid postcolonial subject. Got it? And I do mimicry. What is that? Members of a colonized society like India or Africa imitate the language, dress, politics, etc. of the British, of the colonizers. That is called mimicry. We all do it when we wear jeans, when we speak English, etc. Next question is on
feminism. Who coined the phrase feminine mystique to critique the assumptions that fulfilment as a woman had only one definition for American women after 1949? The housewife-mother.
She is saying this satirically, as if being a housewife is the ultimate fulfillment for women, as if being the mother is the ultimate fulfillment for women. She's saying, no, that is not all womanhood is about. Who said this?
Option A, Kate Millett.
Option B, Carol Hunich.
And option C, Betty Friedan.
And the answer is
option C, Betty Friedan.
Betty Friedan inaugurated the second wave of feminism with her book, The Feminine Mystique. The phrase feminine mystique, she only coined it. Betty Friedan only coined it. She described, using this phrase, the assumption that being a housewife or mother is the ultimate aim of womanhood according to patriarchy. She wanted to prove that women are unsatisfied and could not voice their feelings. Their ultimate aim is not necessarily to be a housewife or a mother, but women wanted to work, to get an education, to have political opinions, etc. Okay, next.
Next question, again on feminism. Question number 14. What was once known as the female malady and according to Showalter is called depression today. Option A, hysteria. Option B, hallucination. And option C, schizophrenia.
People used to think that hysteria is a typical women's disorder. Only women will have it, and women have some pathological reasons for having it. This is what from Plato onwards people thought. But today, when we look at this disease, hysteria, through the lens of gender, new questions begin to emerge. So many feminists have written about hysteria. It was called the female malady, and it is called depression today. That is what Elaine Showalter says. Instead of looking at hysteria as a female disorder, it is now seen as a source of resistance in feminist thought. A small indication of this is there in Doll's House by Ibsen, where Nora dances the Tarantula dance. It is like a representation of hysteria. And women getting hysteria or going crazy is actually a sign of resistance today. That is what feminists say. Okay. Next question on Marxism.
According to Althusser, ideology has a
Dash
existence.
Option A.
Option A, fictional. Option B, discursive. And option C, material.
And the answer is
material.
ideology has a material existence, said Althusser, because an ideology always exists in its practices. An ideology is not just an idea, it is the practice. Ideology always manifests itself through actions. It is performed, and it is in the form of rituals, conventional behavior, practices in education, religion, politics, etc. So, ideology has a material existence.
Next question, again on Marxism. Who brought out a Marxist account of Emily Bronte's Wuthering Heights in his book Myths of Power? Option A, Terry Eagleton. Option B, Frederick Jameson. And option C, Pierre McCarry.
And the answer is?
And the correct answer is option A, Terry Eagleton.
Terry Eagleton was a very major literary critic, predominantly with Marxist views, but he also incorporated techniques of Lacanian analysis and deconstruction. All his books are important. This is interesting. He did a study of the Bronte sisters in Myths of Power. Please look up Terry Eagleton for the exam.
Next question on psychoanalytic criticism. 17th question. Which psychoanalyst coined the phrase collective unconscious? Option A, Jacques Lacan. Option B, Felix Guattari. And option C, Carl Jung.
And the answer is?
Option C, Carl Jung.
Carl Jung coined the term collective unconscious to represent a form of the unconscious, or that part of the mind which contains memories and impulses of which the individual is not aware. We get it through stories we hear, through shared experiences. It is something common to mankind as a whole. It is like we are inheriting this part of the brain, that is collective unconscious. This concept was proposed by Jung against the concept of personal unconscious in Freud. Now, 18th question.
18th question, again on psychoanalytic criticism. In Freud's ego psychology model of the psyche, what is the set of uncoordinated instinctual desires?
In Freud's ego psychology model of the psyche. So that is a model of the psyche that Freud proposed. What is the term used for uncoordinated instinctual desires? Is it?
Or is it ego? Or is it superego?
The answer is?
Answer is option A, it.
Id is the seat of uncoordinated instinctual desires. According to Freud's psychoanalytic theory, all these three are the tripartite parts of the human mind. There are three parts: id, ego, and superego. Id is the primitive or instinctual part. It contains all the sexual desires and aggressive drives, hidden memories, etc. Superego operates on the mind as moral conscience. Superego is the conscience, and ego is the realistic part. It mediates between the id and the superego. When we look at a person and see his behavior, what we are seeing is his ego.
Next question on New Historicism.
Ayo, look at the spelling. New Historicism. Okay.
Who claimed that New Historicism deals with the textuality of history and the historicity of text? Option A, Louis Montrose. Option B, Linda Hetchian. And option C, Stephen Greenblatt.
Ta-da-dang. The answer is?
The right answer is option A, Louis Montrose.
He famously said that New Historicism is about history as text and text as history. That is the meaning. What do you mean by historicity of text? That means all kinds of writing are socially embedded, are culturally specific. No writing is objective. Everything is rooted in culture, society. What do you mean by textuality of history? That means history is not objective truth. History is fictional and constructed. History is textual, means constructed and written from somebody's perspective. Okay?
Next question, again on New Historicism. Who is the author of Renaissance Self-Fashioning, From Moore to Shakespeare? A new historicist reading of Renaissance plays. Option A, Lynn Hunt. Option B, Patricia Woe. And option C, Stephen Greenblatt.
Ta-da-dang!
The right answer is option C, Stephen Greenblatt.
Stephen Greenblatt inaugurated New Historicism with his book Renaissance Self-Fashioning, From Moore to Shakespeare. He also defined self-fashioning as a major term. It is the process of shaping a distinctive personality. How a personality is shaped as a means of belonging to the world, as an address to the world. You know, people in the Renaissance period fashioned themselves or created their identities in a certain way, which is different from how people in the Restoration period did, which is different from how people in the Renaissance period or Romantic period or later Modernist period did. So, studying this gives us an understanding of history and its processes. Got it, guys? 2 more questions for you.
Next question on reader response criticism. Question number 21. Which reception theorist is associated with the concept horizon of expectations? Option A, Stuart Hall. Option B, Jonathan Culler. And option C, Han Robert Yoss.
That's right. Which of these critics talked about horizon of expectations? Very important. Answer is
Hans Robert Yoss.
horizon of expectations. What is it? It is the structure by which a person understands or appraises any text. We appreciate a text. We understand a text at a particular time of history, isn't it? How do we do that? According to horizon of expectations. We read a text at this point in history. In the year 2022 or 2023, we read a text. And we are reading it according to certain codes and conventions that are particular to our time. We are reading the text according to codes and conventions that are particular to our horizon of expectations. These horizons are historically flexible because at another time in history, we will have other horizon of expectations. That is why in the 16th century, we interpret a text in a certain way. In the 17th century, we interpret it differently. In the 21st century, our horizon of expectations as well as interpretation is completely different. Am I boring you? Don't worry, only one more question. Ta-da-dang.
Next question, again on reader response criticism. Who popularized interpretive communities, a theoretical concept stemming from reader response criticism?
Is it?
Norman Holland, Stanley Fish, or Wolfgang Iser?
And the answer is?
And the right answer is option B, Stanley Fish.
Stanley Fish popularized the concept of interpretive communities. What is an interpretive community, guys? A collectivity of people who share strategies of reading, of interpreting, of using a text. So we engage in communication, we engage in reading, we engage in interpretation of text according to certain shared strategies. These shared strategies are given to us by our community. So, understanding the interpretive communities amounts to understanding the text or its reception. So, this is very important in reception aesthetics. This is very important in business studies and business communication. Got it, guys? So, that brings us to the end of this Videopedia on literary theory. This was Unit 9. One more unit is there. Unit 10. Research methods in English. We will be back with research methods. Until then, bye-bye from Kalyani.
Bye-bye from Sethu Lakshmi.
And Team Tess.